Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome back to the Liberal Artist Podcast. I am your host, Bodie Papula, and with me I have Kaylee Horowitz.
Hello.
And Eddie Gibby Gibson.
I don't know why I've got Bee Gees on the brain, and I was about to sing it, and I realized YouTube would kick our asses with copyright strikes.
Listen, man, I just have to say, you can tell by the way I move my walk, I'm a woman's man. No time to talk. The episode's over.
There you go.
Shut up.
Ha, 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 copyright.
You can hear my coffee pot screaming in the background, but there you go. There's an alarm for you. You've set off the copyright sensors.
Coffee pot's like, I love the Bee Gees.
The coffee pot is the only one that can get high enough pitch tone to be able to do the Stayin' Alive chorus.
True.
You go off, Mr. Coffee.
So we wouldn't be a media podcast if we didn't acknowledge the Academy, the rich folks who tell us what movies are good every year.
Yes, the High Council. I mean, the Academy.
I mean the Sith Lords. I mean the evil people. I mean the Academy.
We can't be mean to them. LA's gone through a lot. We can't be mean to the $10 million rich people.
I'm from LA. I can be mean to whoever I want to be. I'm only slightly singed.
There's like a little bit of scorch, like smoke coming off of Bo's beard.
Yeah. I'm looking like Ed Teach in North Carolina, bro.
Do a little, just take your fingers, like, yeah, lick them, put it out real quick.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all want to go through the Oscars real quick?
Very briefly.
Oh,
It's going to be longer than briefly.
I was about to say, take me through the Bodio version of the Oscars nom list.
So do we want to start at the top or do we want to start at the weird places?
Take us to weird places, man. I'm ready.
Okay, here's all the categories Bodio Papula does not care about. Best documentary feature film.
Damn.
Best documentary short film.
Damn.
What's the difference? I couldn't tell you.
Time.
2 hours.
Yeah.
Best international feature film. Why aren't they just in best movie?
Sometimes they are. Shout out to Parasite.
Shouts to Parasite. Best live action short film.
You should have added an hour of runtime if you wanted Bo to respect you.
Those are the categories I give nothing about.
I'm glad you picked those because it would have been really hard to make a joke about, like, best adapted screenplay.
There's sometimes I care, and most of the time it's like, I just didn't know that existed, so I guess you're doing your job of making me aware of other media and stories, I guess. Go off.
But the best pictures are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune, Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked.
I could shatter this coffee cup in my hand at the mention of Emilia Perez. I would. I know everyone's talking about it, but I hate it. I hate it!
I watched this movie
Oh, you watched it?
on a date a month ago.
On a
Why
date?
would you do
Without
that?
because the woman I was dating likes French films.
Oh my god.
We were going to go to a museum, but she was like, "Yo, I'm tired. I want to do something chill." So I panicked and I just like looked up movies in our close local movie theater, and they're like, "This one's made by a French producer." I was
This
like,
one's
"Bet, let's go see it." That's literally all I knew
Oh,
going in.
no.
That is
Jesus
100%
Christ.
what I knew going in.
No.
2 hours later, I was like, that might be the worst movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
That's an exaggeration. It's not good.
No, I'll stand by with you on one. I have not seen it, but just knowing I've seen like 7 different recaps on it that have broken it down by plot, by theme, by like all of these pieces going into the detail of what happens and why do we think we're seeing what we're seeing. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I can't in any good conscience say that, like, no. After seeing clips, after people describing the tone of this to me, you cannot tell me that somebody didn't just feed Repo the Genetic Opera to goddamn AI and say, make it about trans people. I hate it.
So first off, yes, it's an operetta. no, it has no business being an operetta.
No!
Like you rip the music out of this movie, and it's fine. It is about a cartel lord who is trans, but that's not the main plot of the movie. Neither, which is weird. He contacts a lawyer's assistant. He wants to transition and he wants to disappear.
Yeah.
So Zoe Saldana needs to A, find somebody who's going to do the surgery for him, and B, get his family safe.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the plot of an entire movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That's Act 1.
Yeah.
We then fast forward a few years. We find out that Selena Gomez is the cartel lord's husband or wife. Sorry, Miss Gomez. Misgendered you. That's my bad. We fast forward a few years. The cartel lord has become successful as now a woman.
She is now Amelia Perez.
She is now Amelia Perez, and she randomly meets up. She doesn't randomly. She seeks out Zoe Saldana because she's like, hey, I want my family back.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, cool. This still sounds like the plot of a whole movie. We're only about halfway done.
Jesus.
Get Selena Gomez and the kids back. They all moved back to Mexico. They were in Europe for a little bit, for a couple years. They're back to Mexico. They don't know that their aunt, Amelia Perez, is actually their dad, which, okay, whatever. Amelia Perez then spends the next, I think in the timeline of the movie, it's the year, sees what she did as a cartel lord with the disappearances and the kidnappings. It's like, I feel bad about this. I'm going to start a charity organization, employ ex-cartel people, find the bodies, whatever. Which is already like, as somebody with no idea of what's going on, it's like, that sounds like a weird choice to do. We'll get back to that.
Okay.
And then we go through and they do the very tragic, contrived thing of Selena Gomez finds a new husband who we spend no time with. The husband or Selena Gomez. There's crime drama. Everybody dies at the end.
Yeah.
Admittingly, the last song kind of slaps. The last song's pretty sick.
Yeah. So all this time, it's also an operette, not just like.
And this entire time, it's also an operetta that's making all kinds of political statements, but not like standing by them. Like Zoe Saldana has one line about being persecuted because she's black, and then they never go back into it. There's an entire song where the whole hook is penis and vagina, and it sounds as weird in context as it is without context. There's a really nice song in English for some reason that Zoe Saldana has with a Jewish surgeon, and her plot just like goes out the door because her whole thing is, I want to be successful in my career and I also want money, but she very quickly gets money. And it's like, she kind of pops off for a second and the cartel lord sends people after her. It's like, hey, don't waste all this money. And then she just stops wasting all the money and she's rich for the rest of the movie. And you're constantly asking, why are you still here? And she's just kind of there.
Why are we here? Why are we here?
So what are you going to see on the second date?
Well, but the last thing I'll say about Amelia Perez, and then I'll mention we'll move on to the other two Oscar stuff I've seen. I've been told recently that one of the big issues with this movie is that the cartel disappearances are very much so still happening.
Yeah.
To take a cartel lord and then make her the hero, I should say. It's kind of like taking the LA Fires and then making the fire a Pixar character.
Right. This was a good thing.
Yeah. It's like, it's super culturally insensitive, which I'm like, uh-oh.
This feels like a reductress article where it's just like, diversity win. This brutal drug lord is a trans woman.
Exactly. Which is why, like, I have such an issue with this movie of, like, there are things in here that I think could be worth exploring cinematically. Yeah. In that first, like, elevator pitch, that first sentence of description of a cartel lord recognizing something about themselves and attempting to figure out how can I do this and then just disappear because there are too many things complexly with this issue that, like, I can't live with. These are two things that can't be true at the same time. I have to pick one. And that being your plot, I could go with you there. But the way in which everything else follows, draws out without offering detail or substance in some ways, And it just feels like this strange, like, why are we coming here now? Why did we lose all this time in between? Like, why is our story so stretched in this way? And yet where it feels like we're repeating, you can't convince me that's not just an AI beat writing in your script. I cannot fathom humans actually looking at that going, yeah, that's a great idea, even if it's a weird French creative team. Like, I recognize that what writers, director, and a good chunk of the like main production team like are French from France, not Mexico, not the United States. Like,
I've watched more European films in my life this last year than I ever have. And I think part of it, to throw a little bit of prejudice out there, I think part of it is that there's a level of...
We're good at that.
No, yeah. There's a level of cultural sensitivity that European filmmakers never bother with. They never even consider. Apparently, and this is just apparently the director didn't put a lot of research into what he was doing.
No,
he just kind of was like, "This is cool," and I think there's an argument to be made. The whole thing isn't about this person's transition. That's just a story beat. I think a part of normalizing trans people and the trans community is doing stuff like that. It's like, this person's trans. That's not what we're here to talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that piece is important, but everything else, the messiness of the plot, the seemingly randomness of the song. Selena Gomez is in the movie for like 20 minutes. They have songs about her being young and wanting freedom, but it's like that only works because we know Selena Gomez, the pop star.
Yeah.
In the canon of this movie, she has 2 teenage kids.
Right.
Whatever youth she has is a fallacy, right? And the only real inclinations we get between that, her wanting that, is A, her 2 songs, and B, her 2 songs have like pop sidles. She's always singing at a club or she's hungover. She has one song where she's singing into her cell phone and it's filmed like a TikTok video. It's trying to do too much shit at once.
Right.
It's just messy.
Like, normalize the idea of like the trans experience in movie making and storytelling is not just about the transition. Like, absolutely normalize that this is a facet, but it's not the whole story. But then it just feels like you've you've went to the buffet and you piled all this extra shit on the plate that you're not going to eat. Why did you get it?
This is not the movie that will normalize trans people. This is not the trans icon movie.
No,
I hope to
really
God it never becomes
hope
that.
not. God, and the fact that it's been nominated for
so much stuff. It makes no sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It proves that the Oscars are as political as they are actually about the quality of the film.
Or the conspiracy brain, it proves that, hey, we don't have to pay people to write things that people will see.
Bro, I think that movie was straight to Netflix.
Which, again, is part of my upsetness and, like, no, you can't tell me that that wasn't involved here, even if you didn't do your research, even if you didn't do whatever consideration in your story making. You can't convince me otherwise, and that's what scares me. Why? Because everyone has been so collectively like, yeah, it's not great.
And it won so many Golden Globes already.
Right.
Everybody's like, "What? This one?" Anyway,
why?
Gibby, you've had a face of quiet contemplation throughout the last.
He's
10
got
minutes.
the freeform jazz face.
Yes. I think, like, is it because the old white dudes at the top are finally ready to, like, dip their toes into, like, exploring it? No, that's what I'm saying is I'm agreeing that it's a political choice that this is nominated so, like, widespread, but is it that, like, it's baby's first trans movie or trans story, and then they're like, all right, it's wonderful, guys?
It commits the fallacy that most, I will say, Oscar movies, most movies picked by the Academy kind of pick, is that media is only worth praising if it's sad.
Or if it's made by a French man.
Or if it's made by a French guy with a lot of money backing him.
Who understands the plight of queer and trans
and Mexican
women of color,
and black and Dominican
better
women
than
is like
a white French dude that doesn't speak their language.
If your movie isn't already sad, the French are just sad all the time, so they've got to know what they're doing. Right.
Moving on
the
from
American idea.
Moving that on from that train wreck. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 other movies that I've even heard of in the Best Picture list. And 2 that I've seen. I watched The Brutalist from time of recording a week ago. It's fine. It's a movie of 2 parts. I'm of 2 minds about it. So it's created like a biopic, but it's not one. But it's made and filmed like one. So there's a lot of like story beats in it. It's like, yeah, this is passable if it's this person's story. But since I know it's not this person's story, it's just kind of stupid. Why'd you put it in?
Also, right. I am genuinely shocked you watched it because it is the length of at least 3 crispy movies.
It's so awful. So what's nice about it, I'm of 2 minds again. It has a built-in intermission. So like between, I believe it's a 5-act, just by watching it, I believe it's a 5-act and an epilogue as opposed to a 2-act and an epilogue. So at the end of Act 3, the movie has a built-in 15-minute intermission, which admittingly is nice. But if we're at the point to where we're editing in 15 minutes of, hey, go pee time in our movies, this isn't live theater. We've jumped the shark. We're admitting to ourselves that the movies are too long and we don't want to make them shorter for some reason.
You know, we're going back to the Gone with the Wind days, you
right.
know?
Which they knew was too long. So we're intentionally making movies that are too long, and I find that even more frustrating. But Act 2, you get to Act 2, you get at post intermission, and they institute a bunch of excess conflict because I guess they just felt like there wasn't enough conflict in Act 1.
Yeah, there's not enough dramatic like trauma that a Holocaust survivor had to go through. We had to put in more conflict, huh?
It's kind of unacceptable. There's a whole act in Italy, which is filmed almost like a horror movie.
The Italians are terrifying.
Even though the protagonist family is Jewish, there's a moral reprimandment at the end of the movie that's depicted like it's done by the Christian God. Because the person at fault disappears or whatever, and while they're looking for him, they zoom into an image of the cross, and I'm like, same God, different dude, right? The women in this movie are all sex objects, which is extremely outdated, especially given that this is a movie that was filmed in 2022 and it was made by A24. I've seen 5 A24 films at this point. They all suck.
Jesus.
I don't get it. They're all filmed, they're produced, they're made very well.
Everything Everywhere All at Once is pretty good.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. I said it's the best movie I didn't like.
That's high praise, actually, yeah.
Yeah, fuck with me. I don't like Midsummer. It sucks. And then this movie is just fine.
Leave Florence Pugh alone.
My boy Adrian, he did work. He did work.
The funny thing is, all I knew about this movie before researching it a little bit, before we had Oscar talk, was that a friend of mine who I would say is the type of person who would call them films rather than movies.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Who has like very high taste. Even he was just like, it's Adrian Brody being sad for 3 hours. Yep. I didn't care for it.
And if it's not Brody Quest, I don't want it.
the other, I know of Dune Part 2 because I'm a nerd, but I know nothing of Dune. I don't care for Dune. I think Tim Chalamet isn't the greatest actor in the world. Sorry, Jesse.
He's good in Dune. I like him in Dune.
He feels like, as somebody who's like has acting training, amateur actor, didn't through growing up, he feels like a robot doing my job. It's like it's well and it's technically good, but it feels like it doesn't come from a place of experience. It looks like it's like you're good at this because you were made to be good at this.
Timothy Chalamet is just floating in a lab tank.
Like Mewtwo?
You just see like tanks and tanks of like failed Chalamet clones. And they're just like, finally, we've got the right one. Put him in the experiment known as Call Me By Your Name.
I am curious though now about like, I know I've heard like kind of 50-50 split on Dune. Is that like, no, Dune is worth it for like Zendaya or whoever else you'd go see those movies for, but like like it's split for Tim Chalamet. I am kind of curious though about A Complete Unknown.
White folks love Bob Dylan.
I mean, yeah.
Don't put that on me.
But like I'm not even a Bob Dylan fan. I just have heard like, hey, this was actually really well done, and again, kind of looking in comparison to some of the things on this list where it's either like, why in God's name did you think this was a great way to go about this? Or, yeah, like it's okay, but like we couldn't have left some of these ideas behind 20 years ago. Like, I'm wondering like, hey, in a pile of not great, is this one actually pretty good?
Yeah.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if he hasn't been like a bioed like actor playing somebody previously.
No,
right?
and that's
like
what's kind of cool about this
yeah.
movie. From what I've been told, it's kind of the best of the biopic craze that's been going on over the last few years. Granted, the person who told me this also worked on it, so she's biased. But Bob Dylan did have a big role in telling this story. And like I was saying with The Brutalist, when you're telling somebody's story, you can kind of get away with a little more stuff that would typically be contrived.
Sure.
In other stories. And credit to where credit is due. Chalamet starting in 2 Oscar-nominated films is a pretty fucking big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Kid's not even 30 yet, and that's dope.
Yeah.
No, like that's insane. Good for him.
Also, like I'm never gonna talk shit about somebody who treats Nardwuar with respect. Because he went on Nardwuar and was just as excited to meet Nardwuar as Nardwuar was to meet Timmy. He's a nice guy. I will give him that. And he was very good on College Game Day in picking college football games.
I just saw him on what SNL had him on as the host and the music guest. For their episode. Yeah, no, he's talented, but I really did. I love his opening monologue. I'm like, I need to see you do more comedy because I'm like, you're funny. You have good timing, and God, I loved his like. I love that he's in on shit too, where he's like, well, you know, I've been nominated and I've been very grateful, but I keep losing to Gary Oldman. So, you know, I mean, maybe it counts for something to be nominated, but I guess not. I'll be home with my Dune popcorn bucket. it took me out. It was just
That's
like my
funny.
Dune.
Timmy, there's nothing wrong about losing to Michael Jordan. Like, Gary Oldman is the GOAT, Timmy. It's fine to lose to him. Charles Barkley lost to him. Magic Johnson lost to him. It happens.
Nickel Boys is the other one that I've heard of and not seen. It's our mandatory, hey, black people were sad during slavery and integration, weren't they?
I've just only seen the ads for it recently, too. I'm like, well, here's our what can we do that's not the Green Book movie.
Right, exactly. I'm so over sad black people movies being the only one nominated for it. I don't believe this statement, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Can a motherfucker get like a Tyler Perry movie nominated? Can we get a comedy?
Get
brother?
that Keke Palmer movie nominated.
That's what I'm saying.
It's got 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's good enough to make the cut.
Right, half of y'all motherfuckers don't even want us teaching about slavery anymore, but yet these are the only movies that get nominated.
I don't even care if the movies are good. Put Keke Palmer on the Oscar stage. She's great.
If y'all got to see black people be happy in movies, would you be more willing to do that? Or is it because we just keep doing the sad stories that you're sick and tired of it? I don't know.
Those stories are the equivalent of like sad Holocaust movies for white people. Shout out to the Brutalist.
Shout out to the Brutal.
But no, we had to shoot down Adam Sandler because, yeah, understandably, it's not always great. But God, we get no Jewish comedies.
Jesus.
Look, if anything, you will always have the fact that Uncut Gems is now the official dad movie.
True.
Like, we've got that going.
Uncut Gems.
Millennial dad movie.
There's just one more thing to mention.
Yeah.
Wicked.
And that's where I was going. Wicked.
Good.
Wicked is the clear winner. I don't think Cynthia Erivo's going to win Best Actress as much as I think she should.
I have a feeling Ariana will win supporting, though.
I don't know why you would nominate Ariana Grande for Best Supporting Role and not give it to her.
Exactly.
Like, why would you even bother?
That one feels like like it's deserved. Like, she did do the
she
work,
did a,
but
she
it
did a
also
good job.
feels like a plant.
Yeah. I think Best Actress is going to go to Demi Moore. Kind of because she deserves it at this point.
But also, fuck yeah, body horror getting nominated.
Yeah. horror's on the up and up, which is very cool.
Not according to the Oscars. The Oscars are just like, ew, I don't want to touch it.
By that same merit, though, Best Original Song, not Original Score, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, that's one of the 2 songs Selena Gomez performs. So I'm like, why would you bother if you're not? It's not only, 2 of the Oscar nominees in Best Original Song are Emilia Perez, which is absurd. And number 2, one of them is Selena. Is one of them or both of them Selena Gomez's songs? One of them is Selena Gomez's song. The other one is one of Zoe Saldana's songs, where she doesn't sing. She does like that sing talk thing they used to do back in old musicals when they had the old white guy actors who couldn't actually sing. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, I don't know why you nominate Selena Gomez for one, intentionally don't include Wicked in any of them, and it doesn't go to her. Right.
Which is why I'm worried very deeply about Best Original Musical like that.
I think Emilia Perez is going to get at least 3 Oscars, which
and
is
that's even
stupid.
more horrifying.
Yeah, I think they get 2 or 3 at the low end.
What do you mean the Academy's not interested in horror? They're going to push this thing all the way through, and that's goddamn terrifying.
Oh, my God.
Oh, boy. The idiots! They're doing it intentionally!
Nah, I know the true conspiracy.
Tell me.
They nominated that song by Selena Gomez so she has to perform at the Oscars show. Because they always do the songs during the show.
You should sing this song in between while we do the set change.
Shout out to like the greatest live musical performance of all time at the Oscars when they did
Gosling?
Everything is Awesome from the Lego movie. And they had Will Arnett in a Batman suit.
Aside from that, I stand by wholeheartedly as also as washed out and what are we doing here as the Tonys have also become. Those are like, I mean, again, it's live theater versus movies, but I will fight and every time say, no, give me the musical performances at the Tonys, not the Oscars.
The Tonys is different because for that point, right? It's a live entertainment and B, the Tonys are mostly for musicals anyway. So it's like, why wouldn't we do that? That all to say, modern day Oscars, it's worth looking into older films. I think it's very interesting to have like retrospective on here's how movies look today. What did they used to look like? What did we used to value? And that's why we're talking about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Editor Gibby put in the like, woo, like we're going back in time flashback.
Editor
sounds.
Gibby put in 5 seconds of the James Brown instrumental song "Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf." Will we get copywritten for that?
Not for 5 seconds, baby. That's fair use.
Hell yeah, brother.
Kiss my ass, Google.
We still have rights for now.
No, I gotta say on Google's good side, that's the only one that's not openly fascist.
Openly. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? 1966 film adapted from a 1962
Yep.
Stage play. Gibby, this movie was your idea, so I'm gonna let you take the lead here.
You came up with this movie. It was your idea.
You wrote this movie,
You're
designed
Edward
this
Albee.
movie, filmed it.
Yes, that was my my previous life before I reincarnated. What great heights I have fallen from. Really, the reason that I wanted to watch this movie was because when I was in the Tiger Iron Gym in Auburn, Alabama, I was passing by the TVs near the treadmill, and I looked up and saw some of the most stark black and white cinematography that I had seen before. And I took a picture of the TV because I was like, I don't know what that movie is, but I need to see that movie. And it took me months of searching to find out what that actually was. I had to look at like the TNT or the TCM programming block from that day to figure out what movie it is. And I was just like, finally, I found it. And I decided, I want to make my friends watch that too. So it took a while, but if that was the truth of why I actually like wanted to see it, I was like, I don't know what that is, but I love it.
Oh, the irony. If only you could have actually heard it and been like, I don't know, they were talking about a kid or a college or a game, and half your friends in the theater department all would have gone, oh, Virginia Woolf.
That would have been too easy, Kaylee. It was like when I tried to find a single song for 4 months and then realized it was in Stranger Things, and that's why it was in my head that whole summer. But one of the other reasons I wanted to talk about it is because this is, according to Wikipedia, one of 2 films to be nominated for every eligible category at the Oscars.
Damn.
13 whole Oscar nominations, and they picked up a bunch of them. So I figured, let's give it a go. Let's have some classic cinematography, some classic cinema. This is a very different movie than I anticipated.
Same.
Because it's, like you said, an adaptation from a famous 1962 play. Part of the reason why it was so famous is because everybody in attendance was like, holy crap, that swore a lot.
This is not a visual medium. Kaylee has a copy of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Some nice book ASMR.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, very nice. Also, interesting fact about the play, people went to see it in droves because they were trying to distract themselves from the Cuban Missile Crisis.
From the Cuban Missile Crisis, yeah.
Hilarious. They were just like, damn, this Castro shit sucks. Let's go see a play. That'll lighten our spirits. This show does not lighten your spirits.
Well, and it's kind of one of the great ironies of this piece of Albee theater. In so many ways, that was why people were looking to see it, was for a distraction, when the entire premise of both like the play and the movie is all about fantasy versus reality. What's real? Does it matter? Who knows?
One more fun fact before we really dive into it. This is one of 2 movies that was instrumental in getting the Motion Picture Association of America to figure out how to do a ratings system.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah, they just didn't have it before. Like, we previously talked about Some Like It Hot and how it killed the Hays Code. This is the movie that was like, all right, we need G, PG, R, and eventually PG-13, because Indiana Jones is gonna do some wild shit.
That's what's crazy. And for the reason why it set that up, we can move into the conversation, is because it had any and at all cursing in it. Like the idea that only 60 years ago people were going to a movie theater, see what we consider now a PG-13 movie, and hear goddamn and go, is wild. Given now, I think you get one fuck in a PG-13 movie now.
It's so weird. It was like a little time capsule but almost from an alternate reality where like that was normalized. Because as I was firing it up, Elizabeth Taylor is just like, God damn it, screw you, up yours. And I was just like, this isn't a movie from the 60s. How could this be happening?
Bet your ass it is.
I was surprised then. I was under the impression we were already making movies in color in the 60s. I didn't
Sometimes,
realize.
but it was expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was based on cost, which again, it was Warner Brothers producing, but it was still a like, hey, this is a really popular play. And, you know, honestly, with all things considered and seeing what's actually doing well currently as cinema, like movie theatrical events, it might be worth actually, you know, giving a shit about the theater and seeing what scripts could do well being turned into film.
They did. Wicked is awesome.
I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a situation where it's like when you listen to the dialogue and kind of see how it's like being blocked and everything, it's like, yes, this was taken from a theater manuscript. This is obviously like originally meant for the stage. But where other films fail to make that like full jump and everything, I think this one does a lot better. That it like adapts to the medium, because as I saw in the grand venue of cinema, the Tiger Iron Gym.
Shout out to Tiger Iron, man. I love that gym.
It was a great gym and it's cheap. It's wonderful. I love it.
It's so much fun.
Shout out to Tiger Iron, unofficial sponsor of the Liberal Artists Podcast.
I wish. Let me hit up that.
How could they be a sponsor?
They're a sponsor in my heart.
I know the family who owns it. I could hit them up.
The cinematography really is that striking throughout the entire thing. I love the way that they're able to, like, if two people are talking, but one person's kind of on the outside, they've got the two in focus and the one kind of blurry. I love how the camera moves. It zooms in quickly in a moment of drama. And there is a lot of drama in this movie because it's basically about a couple who are so violently unhappy and want to tear each other down that they basically will tear another couple down to get there.
And I will pretend to be Ian for a moment and take this arguing point to the original text as well, because it's not just the movie version. It is baked into the original script. This is a play that is notorious for being like, oh yeah, George and Martha, like they hate each other, they want to kill each other. And I think not too long after we started dating, we looked at this play again and we went, oh no, it's us.
What does that mean?
No.
In the sense that some of the way that which people immediately jump to, like, some of these lines are very like, Jesus Christ, like there's shock. There's a little bit of like, how could you say that to your spouse? There is this question of, if they have been together this long, let alone like gone through, you know, trial, tribulation, trauma, the experiences that they have both had separately as individuals and then together in this relationship. Whenever, like, you know, it says like whenever somebody says, you know, they hate each other, he's like, I'll look at them and I'll just go, have you ever loved someone? Like, have you ever been in love with somebody? And it kind of is that level of like, I am going to stick with you, but good God, I can't do this right now. Or like, hey, you piece of shit, of course. Like it is the actor's job, I think. And I think, like, I mean, obviously it's Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. They do a really damn good job of finding those moments where, like, yeah, she bites at him a lot, but they also come back to one another. There's lines that, like, as she's leaving to go show Honey the house, maybe she gets a little sharp, but we're both like, you could still do that line as a little bit of a like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get you, like whatever, and then go off and then come back as if nothing happened. Like they're on each other's nerves, but there's not, unless something has immediately happened to upset, like really truly upset one or the other. George is very concerned that she's gone off, you know, with Nick. she's very upset that George won't let her talk about certain things. Like, unless there is a moment of immediate, I'm responding to something, the way in which the language is used expresses that there's a tension between them. They're not a perfect, happy couple living a wonderful, privileged life at a New England college, but like, they also don't hate each other. They're not like out here actively seeking, I can't divorce, and so I guess I'll just drive I'll just kill myself. Like, it's not that. It's not like I hate my wife play.
No,
they're both just troubled people.
I think it's the stuff we usually say in private. They say in front of these two people they don't know.
Exactly.
Right? Because that's what the whole opening of the show is. It's them being shitty to each other and then laughing about it.
Right.
They're obviously both two very sad people, but they are in love with each other versus Nick and Honey, who you're not even sure if their relationship is real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, they come in presenting as such. They come in as this young, bright-eyed couple. Like, Nick just got a job at the college, and like they're about to start their life together.
But Nick's cold open meets this other guy. It's like, I'm gonna suck and fuck my way to the top, baby.
Well, yeah, that's what I find so interesting about like the way that the story progresses. You have like these two openly resentful people who are kind of like trying to draw these other two bright-eyed, innocent on the outside looking people, like drag them down to their level through their games, not because they want to get at like those people and be like, oh, you've got such a perfect life, but because it's the games that they play and just like how they've gotten into that pattern for so long that they almost don't know any other way to act. And what I love is that like all the secrets are like getting spilled out early for George and Martha, but it takes time to get those secrets from Nick and Honey. Like Nick saying that he only married Honey because he thought that she was pregnant. And then later on, when George and Honey are talking, she basically reveals that she had an abortion. So yeah, she was pregnant. So there's a lot of drama that rises up there.
Well, there's questions about the games that they play, both as like parallels of marriage, of like, here we've been, like they're in their late 40s, early 50s versus Nick and Honey are in their late 20s. It's that like, hey, y'all, like you're new, like you're a kid, a couple of kids versus they've had, almost 20 some odd years of marriage, if I remember correctly.
Yes, right under 10.
As well as the career in academia. And that's sort of where it's like this dual sense of game. It's not just, how do you make a marriage last this long? Well, you can't be all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and sweethearts with one another. Sometimes you do just want to go, God, Swampy, just go get me a drink. Like, I can't do this right now. Anyway, like it's those kind of, where do you pick and choose your battles as a couple, but then also within the politics. It's a small college. It's a tiny town.
And her dad runs it.
How do you politic your way in academia? And it is that question of like, why George is so like, I've got to get to the bottom of this. There's the interpretation of these couples as the old and the new, the outgoing and the incoming, and George sees Nick as a threat. There's that interpretation. But I think so much more, it's this like, oh no, like I haven't survived this long here if not for having learned some of these things. Like, I was also naive. We learn about some of those mistakes that haunt George's past. But he's very good about that. Like, no, I'm going to find out what I need to, because whether I'm trying to help you or not is kind of ambiguous. You're not going to completely know.
That's for me to know and you to find out.
Exactly. But it is that level of like, but I need you to learn. You can't just go in here assuming that, like, not that everybody has their best interest in you, but just because you've been the golden boy does not mean it's going to cut it in the real world. Like, you're going to have to play the game and learn what you can or can't say, or what you should say, and then just go along with, if you want to stick it out as long as I have, even if I'm not in charge of anything.
I think the hardest part to logic out, the biggest piece that would change if we were to write this like in today times, right, is that the justification as to why they're that open right? Especially George and Martha, why they're that open and out in the world, and why Honey is the way she is, and why Nick's willing to say stuff, try to sleep with another guy's wife, and then get whiskey dick and whatnot. Is the justification is it's 2 a.m. and they're all drunk.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, whatever.
We start the play with them like 5 drinks in.
Yeah.
Oh my
Just
God.
keep drinking.
And I love that like George and Martha are already drunk when the story starts, and Honey and Nick catch up to them, and we see the shift in their performance of like they start out basically sober, and then Honey is doing interpretive dance at 3 a.m. at the Roadhouse Club. I think I've never seen anything like that before. I think that's brilliant.
But you've definitely seen people like that, right?
Yes. As soon as Elizabeth Taylor was on screen, I was just like, I know her. She's a mean drunk, and I knew her in college.
Exactly. Right.
Like, yeah, and I was just like, that is actual good drunk acting from everybody in the movie. I was amazed.
And that's the piece. I know in a lot of the classes I've taken, and a lot of the stuff we do nowadays, we say, hey, don't perform a piece or don't start a piece already being inebriated, right? Like whether it's drunk or now high. Yeah, idiot.
Albie was just like, suck on this sucker.
The man is a madman. I love him. I love him so much.
Again, Bodio's going to complain about how long movies are. I think all this stuff would have to happen over the course of months and weeks within the fiction of these people constantly ramming heads and interacting with each other, as opposed to just over the course of a few. We see them unravel almost in real time, right?
Right, but again, it is a 3-act play that we put into 2 hours, which for me is like, okay, that's really haven't lost anything, so that's actually really impressive that we're still keeping it that tight. Good on you.
I have no trouble with like all of this happening in one night because like I'm willing to buy into something like God of Carnage. It's very, very similar in that way. What I didn't really buy into is, like you said, Bo, it's way longer than I thought it was going to be. I genuinely thought the scene with the gun, I was like, oh my God, the movie's over. And I've been this drawn in. I can't believe 2 hours went that fast. No.
That's only the end of Act 1.
Which, to be fair, is the most I've ever been gripped by, like, a drama from the 60s ever.
Oh, sure.
Oh my God. I was just like, I know it's not going to happen. Wait, am I wrong? Is this a murder movie?
That bit is so good.
She's telling this emasculating story, and we get the POV of the gun coming up behind her, and the camera zooms in on Honey screaming. And then it's all just a joke, and Honey and Nick are like, ha, that was fucked up. And Elizabeth Taylor is just like, oh, I'll get you for threatening to murder me. Jesus, what a moment.
Which, again, is part of this, like, no. They've not only done this before, they'll do it again. They've been doing this. This is how they've come to cope and maintain their relationship and also break in the newbies.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't feel like a first time we've ever done this kind of shit between them.
But it's like the peak of like the drama to me. And yes, I know there's like other peaks of the drama, like at the Roadhouse and the final reveal that like that we never actually even had a son. Like I know all that, but it is strange pacing wise where I'm like, that's the moment that I thought was the climax, and then there's 2 more acts, and also Act 3 is too long, and also kind of the Act 2, the part with them on the swings, is also too long.
Very long.
Yeah.
The thing is just like, it's great. We're still going?
Yeah. Welcome to me, baby. Every movie ever.
Yes. I was just like, that first act, like, I think if he actually did shoot her, like, I would call it the greatest one act play of all time.
That'd be awesome.
I don't think you're wrong, though, in that with each act, and I think kind of deliberately, with each act, there is a climax that comes at the end of it. I mean, and part of it being the like, structurally, that's kind of what you do, because why would you be ending the act here? What's happened? Like, we started with something and we've spent the whole time puttering about how to fix it or what's going on, what should we do, whatever it is that you're doing to try to solve the problem. But then something's got to come to a head, and that's dramatically what closes us out. And either we take an intermission or we go to the next one. I just, like, it's the three different ones, the three different acts. And I'm actually kind of sad they didn't do title cards on these, but I'm like, oh, well, it's a movie. I guess not. We have Act 1 is fun and games. Yeah. Act 2 is, Walpurgisnacht, or I believe the witch's gathering. Witch's gathering.
Oh. I looked at Wikipedia for that one.
No, I was like, it's witch night, witch something. And then Act 3 is the exorcism. And it's that we close off a different piece of each of these characters, I think, like specifically George and Martha, but I think a little bit of Nick and Honey at the end of each one too, where there's a change that happens each time. And it's that we've lost at the end of Fun and Games. We do get the closure that, okay, they don't like hate each other. They antagonize one another in this never-ending cat and mouse kind of thing. But like, so we can kind of rest assured that like there is at least a care, some kind of a love. Walpurgisnacht is much more of the like, okay, no, like this is, everybody's kind of had a recognition that now they're behaving a little more out of the norm.
Let's drive drunk.
Yeah, what's going on? I'm now like worried, like you're on the precipice of making a mistake that is irrevocable. And the end of the exorcism, of course, being we have exorcised the concept of this son, this game that we've had, this bit that we started. We've gotten rid of it because you broke the rule. You mentioned him. The just catharsis in that room of everything coming out.
It's worth stating that, back to Kaylee's point at the beginning of this, George and Martha stay together after that. Yeah. Like, even after this wild night where they were really, really rude together, they end the show holding hands.
Right.
Which is, in a jacked up way, kind of sweet.
Yeah, like they both have a recognition of like, all right, we went too far.
Yeah.
We fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we still don't know if that means they're ever gonna bring him back in another bit or like,
don't do the bit about the kid.
Exactly. Like, and that's the thing, like they'll have these sidebars where he's like, play it for all it's worth, like I need you mad, I need you angry, good, like but do we know that like is the game actually over? Have things changed? We don't know. It might be, we might just wait till next year's faculty like party, see who else is new that Martha pulls into their sphere and see what happens. But
as soon as she touched that kneecap, I was just like, oh, they fucking. And this is not the first time this has happened in this house.
It's changing directions real quick, and then we'll wrap stuff up.
Yes.
I think it's interesting, a point you made during, the last show we talked about that is an adaptation from stage to screen, Wicked. Gibby, you made the point that it was really impressive how many scene changes and how they like really use the medium of film to change the environments over and over again. I think obviously this is one of the earliest instances in which we were doing it. I think this movie lacked that. Like, granted, they probably didn't know they could do that, and they probably didn't have the budget for it. But it was interesting to watch a movie with two extras. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Where they go to three places.
The extras are the gaffer and his wife from the movie.
Yeah.
So they just looked over at the electrician and lighting guy and it was like, hey, get over here.
Exactly.
You look like you could run
bring
a bar.
your wife too.
Used to ask if anything's going wrong. You give them water and look at them like they're crazy. Good job.
I love that. I didn't know that's great.
It was so weird just to see other people in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's the idea, I think it succeeds just in the same way that Wicked did, though. You don't need to go to so many places. Like, again, as much as it could be a story of them falling apart over all this time, they unravel with you know, with all the drinking. That's what happens. But I don't think they're falling. George and Martha, at least, are not falling apart in the same way that Nick and Honey will now have to go home and think about.
Yeah.
George and Martha are just now sort of left with this feeling of the like the loss of a son that wasn't real, but he was an escape. And that being kind of coming back to the title, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and this idea of, you know, fantasy and reality. What do you keep? What do you make up to get through your day? When the real world is a piece of shit and out of your control, what can you do to control it? Is that healthy? Yeah. Is that good? Does it help? I don't know.
No! The answer to all of them are no!
Well, but then when you can't, then you're just left with reality, and sometimes that's worse. And so, you know, it's a big just shitball complication of questions that I don't think they're broken up about, like, you know, well, then what do we do? Like, what's our game? What's our bit? Do we keep it, but then really recognize how could we bring something back from the dead? Because then we really know it's a game, you know? Yeah. There's maybe less comfort in that. But similarly, it's not that this could be something drawn out over weeks and months and days. The fact that it does just all happen in one night. Why would you need to go anywhere else other than... Yeah. We're in this house. It's 3:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And all right, we thought we were done. I'm going to try to take them home. No, there's a dance club. Okay, great. Yeah. Like, it's a tiny little college town. Where are you going to go?
I think, and we'll wrap it up here. I think there are three moral takeaways from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Number 1, seek therapy.
Yes.
Yep.
Number 2, don't drink.
Yep.
And number 3, y'all end the function before 2 a.m.
Damn it, I was almost at 3 for 3.
We used to say nothing good happens after 1 a.m. These motherfuckers were like, we're starting at 2. It's like, end the function before that, man.
I thought we were saying 3.
We did say 3, didn't we?
I was like, I don't think it was idea. 1. I think it was 3.
I think it was 3 because the bars closed at 2:30.
Exactly. But which is why 3 a.m. is the witching hour, because it is that level of like, okay, the after parties should be wrapped up by now, because at this point, what are you doing?
If you can see the sun.
Yeah.
If you're not already corralling your hooligan friends to go lay down on a couch and take some aspirin and water, you're doing it wrong. Go the fuck to sleep.
Ooh. Virginia Woolf 2, The Hangover.
Oh, man. That's been this episode of the Liberal Artist Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Please follow us on our socials at LibArtistPod. Give us 5 stars on whatever your podcast listening thing is. Join us next time where we write a culturally inappropriate bar hopping play.
Oh, I'm interested.
Peace.
The Liberal Artists Podcast premieres every other Thursday on your favorite podcasting platform. The show is hosted by Bodhi Opapula, Kaylee Horowitz, and Andy Gibson. You can find the show at LibArtistsPod on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks to White Hot for performing the theme song Reflect, which can be found on freebeats.io. Now, I'm off to go exploring, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find a sheep that I can call my own. Good day.
Kaylee, you gotta run. You gotta go.
I've gotta run. I've gotta go do a show.
Yeah, go be an actor.
It's not Virginia Woolf.
Upload later. You gotta go.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta go. Bye.
Peace.
Wait, let me stop. Oh, God.